Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that kind introduction. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for that perspective, Michael, on the world of food trends from a Michelin point of view. For those of you that don't know, ladies and gentlemen, the Food People are a global food and beverage trends agency. From our base in London and also Australasia, we've been spotting food and beverage trends now for over a decade. And our expertise is using our global trend spotting network to scour the world to report on emerging food and beverage trends so that businesses and brands can make informed decisions based on emerging trend insight. Having said that, at our heart, we're a team of 25 people who are passionate. That's better. We're passionate about food and beverage trends and have that natural curiosity for the role that food and drink has to play in our social culture. We work across the globe and across the industry in the US, Europe and Oceania, working for global QSR and hotel chains, airlines, retailers and food brands. In terms of the next 25 minutes, I'd like to touch briefly on the social and cultural drivers behind food and beverage trends, so very much the why. Also a note on the new generation that are walking into our food and beverage establishments, then deep dive into the restaurant trends for 16-17, and then provide you with the link at the end to be able to download the content. Just before I get into this, how is it that we are able to stand up here and talk about food and beverage trends? Well, we've spent 10 years building what we call our global trend spotting network. We've now got over 1,000 trend spotters in 33 different countries. We've got 400 chefs in our trend circle, together with social media, content aggregation, outlets, opening analytics, and global menu analysis. This keeps us very much at the forefront of food and beverage trends around the world. Each year we produce our food and beverage mega trends for the coming 2 years, and as part of this we take a look not only at the trends themselves but very much the why behind them, the social and cultural drivers, and this year with a particular focus on millennials and Generation Z. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to 5 social and cultural trends. So this is for us very much the why behind what's happening and manifesting in the world of food and drink. And the first one is one that we called In Control. This is a social and cultural driver that is global and overarches all trends. We all expect now to be more in control of our lives and to use technology and information available in a way that benefits and suits us. Technology gives us knowledge, knowledge gives us power, and power gives us control. And diners are more in control than they've ever been before. Then we have one that's called Works for Me. Consumers want services, concepts and products, as well as a tone of voice that resonates with them as individuals to make them feel like they're the ones that are important, like they have a say and like they're being listened to. Then we have memorable experiences, and Michael touched on this just a few moments ago. And it would appear particularly millennials are falling out of love a little bit with those shiny status symbols of the materialistic lifestyle. Instead, seeking excitement and meaning from doing rather than owning and living rather than having. Millennials are spending a greater proportion of their disposable income on experiences, especially shared ones. We need to give those diners an experience, something to remember, something that's unique, something that they haven't seen before, and something that gives them social equity and social status. Something that they can share with their peer groups, their friends and family in the wider social sphere. And then we have one that we've called #NoFilter. So consumers want to hear and be told real stories. They want to know the real reason behind why a restaurant exists. What makes them different? We need to remove the filter, but we need to be true and genuine at the same time, because it's easier than ever for diners to find out if you're not telling quite the truth. And then we have true responsibility and morality. Consumers often expect and demand real action from businesses, brands, and food and beverage. Talking about employee programs and improving the environment and the sort of local community are simply hygiene factors. Now, we really have to demonstrate that we're going the extra mile and really doing good. So this new generation that's walking into our food and beverage outlets, what is it that has shaped this generation? It's worth having this in mind. This is a generation that have no memory of life before touchscreen. They're recession survivalists. They've seen their parents survive and come out the other side of recession. No Wi-Fi for them equals no life, and that is aren't my words. Those are the words I've heard many millennials and Gen Z talk to me about. YouTubers are very much their A-listers. They see their parents as friends and their family as a team. Terrorism, unfortunately, has always been a part of their lives, and they live in a 24/7 learning culture. This new generation, they are digitally intuitive, they're empowered very much by technology, and they see the world as theirs to save and change, and to them diversity is the new normal. And they're motivated by experience and meaning, not just status and success. So, here it is, and I apologise for the poor quality of the screen. On my laptop you can see it, but when you download it you'll be able to see in all its glory. 2016-17 trends map that we've developed specifically for this event. And in the centre of the map you can see the bullseye there. Those are the social and cultural drivers that I've just been through. The inner black ring, you have the titles of the mega trends, and don't worry, I'm going to go through them. And on the outer ring, the sub-trends that sit beneath them. So what I'm going to introduce is the top line of the mega trends and some examples of the sub-trends that sit beneath them. And the first of those mega trends, experience is everything. And this really reflects the evolution of dining. Michael touched on this as well. Consumers are no longer content with just a meal. They're expecting entertainment, theatre, and a feast for the senses, as well, obviously, as a pleasurable dining experience. Brands, restaurants, also advertising and products are having to do more than ever before to capture the consumer in a world where they're being pushed and pulled sensorially in all directions. So this mega trend is about everything that contextualizes the food and drink. And also Michael touched on this as well, that it's not just the food itself, but everything that sits around it, the environment within which food and beverage exists. And a couple of the sub-trends, and I couldn't talk about experience without talking about open kitchens. This is very much about adopting the nothing to hide approach. Restaurants are embracing the open kitchen phenomena and very much bringing back of house to front. This is very much about creating an emotional connection between the chef and the diner. The sights, the sounds, the smells of watching your meal being lovingly created not only builds up a healthy appetite, but it also builds trust in food preparation and obviously heightens the overall eating experience. 79% of what we call notable restaurant openings in the UK and US during 2015 had some type of open kitchen, whether that be a full, no barriers whatsoever barrier between front and back of house, or whether that be perhaps a letterbox window where you can see into food preparation areas or kitchens, or even walk-in fridges in some cases. Then we have one that we've called multi-sensory enjoyment. And this terminology, multi-sensory, is appearing more and more when we look at how operators describe their food and beverage outlets. And there are some amazing opportunities for brands and restaurants to create a multi-sensory offer. Charles Spence, who some of you will know, a professor from Oxford, very much the father of gastrophysics, says, to quote him, "You can manipulate the environment to literally flavour your food and drink in the way in which you want." So this is very much about how everything around the food and drink has the effect on the food and drink itself. Martin Morales, just last week, co-founder of Ceviche, said, customers no longer want fine dining, they want fine experiences. For those of you that haven't read it, I would recommend buying Charles Spence's book, The Perfect Meal. It's a fascinating insight into this world. And I've got two examples to show you. One, the left-hand side, is Ultraviolet in Shanghai, where they're controlling every element of the environment, the cutlery, the crockery, the music, the ambient temperature, humidity levels, so on and so forth. And opened after Ultraviolet in Shanghai, we have Sublimotion in Ibiza. And for those of you that haven't been, here's a little taste of it. appreciate I exaggerate the point to make the point, but there's some interesting learnings in there. The next mega trend I'd like to talk about is one that we've called creating the contrast, and this is all about combining unusual food formats, flavors and textures to create completely new food and beverage sensations. So originality and creativity very much being at the center of this mega trend. And the sub-trend I'd like to focus in on is one that we've called forever hybrids. This is literally about taking tastes, colors, food formats, cuisines, and textures and giving them a good shake-up. And again, Michael alluded to this earlier on, the fact that ingredients, cooking techniques and so on are becoming global. We've almost abolished the rule book and made way for creativity and originality. We're seeing the line between food and drink becoming muddied as we see cocktails focus more on food and desserts become drinkable. When Dominic Ansell created the cronut, which is the hybrid between croissant and donut, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with that back in 2013, we probably at that time would have said that was going to be a fad, but I'm sure he never imagined that he would open up the floodgates to what has become a world of food hybriding. We now live in a world of permissibility where it's okay to break the rules at all tiers of dining. The next mega trend to touch on is one that we've called done better. This is all about taking everyday food and doing it better, or pushing it up, for want of a better expression. This is made up of sub-trends such as the gourmetization of French fries, elevated barbecue, next generation hot sandwiches, the continued momentum behind the burger phenomena. But the two that I'd like to focus in a little bit more detail on, the first of which is elevated barbecue. And we're seeing the influence of American barbecue still growing strong. We see evidence of this sort of Americana dude food cuisine all over the world. Of course in North America, but also in the UK, Europe, India, Asia, Australasia. However, it's the barbecuing techniques from around the world that are being showcased, from Rabata grills, Churrasco, and also the tandoori oven. It's almost as if consumers can't get enough of that smoke, those smoked, charred flavors, the theatrical experience of barbecue. I think it's almost a primeval thing, food being cooked over fire and coal. And then we have single specialists. This sub-trend is all about being completely single-minded. The very best at what you do and being loud and proud of it. Two great examples, the meatball shop there from New York on the left-hand side, and of course burger and lobster there in the middle. And whether it be your specialism, be it burgers or fried chicken or uber local and seasonal, this is all about being single-minded. So out with the genericism and in with the single specialism and all of the backstory and storytelling and craft that goes with it. The next megatrend to touch on is one that we've called casual is king. When we look at outlet openings in London in 2015, 90% of all outlets were casual. I find that quite staggering. Even the big name chefs, as we've heard already, are opening little brother restaurants delivering a similar food philosophy, but in a more relaxed and informal setting. And the sub-trends that I'd like to pick up in this space, the first one is sharing is commonplace, and as we know, sharing as a concept is most definitely up. It provides intimacy between consumers and allows everybody to have a little bit of everything. But it's not just confined to food. We're seeing sharing cocktails, especially popular at the moment, with giant punch bowls taking center stage. We also do a lot of menu analytics, and there's been a 280% increase between 2014-15, the increase of the use of sharing language on menus. So when we do our linguistic analysis, terms like to share, sharing platters, family style, and tapas style are all up. As I mentioned, the big names are going casual. Casual dining is very much the hotbed at the moment, and we're seeing lots of high-profile Michelin stars, chefs opening casual restaurants. Two great examples. One very soon to come to Dubai is Gordon Ramsay's Bread Street Kitchen, which blends the informality and vintage with his ever-changing menu. And quite a topical one on the bottom right, Roy Choi has teamed up with Daniel Patterson in California to deliver low coal. This is a fast, casual restaurant concept serving healthier versions of traditional fast foods. But this project also has a significant community element, so bringing healthier fast food to some of the most disadvantaged kids in and around California. And of course, in this megatrend, we have to mention the street food inspiration. And when it comes to street food, the choice is yours. Sometimes you want to get fully involved and create, totally customize. Other times you just want to get up close and personal and see it in all of its glory. And our evolving and growing street food cultures are a perfect embodiment of this megatrend. But what is it about, street food, do you think? Well, for us, it's made in front of you. You get to interact with the guy or girl who's made it for you. They get to tell you their particular story. It's ultra fresh. You can customize it. There's a minimal dwell time, and it's completely transparent. You can see everything being made in front of you. What isn't there to like about street food? And when you look at menus, new openings, you can see the influence of street food starting to come through, whether that be naming, whether that be in food formats. We shouldn't underestimate the amount of inspiration coming from the street food world, and it's an influence that's most definitely here to stay. Then a very important megatrend to touch on is one that we've called healthy lifestyles. Whoever you are and whatever your age, wherever you live, you are more likely to be paying more attention than ever to your well-being and the role that food and drink has to play in making you staying healthy, looking good and feeling great. This is a megatrend that's global. It includes sub-trends such as healthier drinks and cocktails, healthier food for children out of home, substitutive ingredients for healthy alternatives, the continued demonization of sugar, and we're starting to now think about fats in a very different way. But a couple of sub-trends that I'd like to explore in more detail with you. One of those is the fact that veganism is very in vogue. When I trained as a chef 25 years ago, veganism was very much reserved for hippies and animal welfare crusaders. However, today, this plant-based diet has become rather trendy. Lifestyle choice promoted by celebrities, health gurus, and also bloggers as well. Google Search Analytics reported a threefold increase in searches for veganism between 2007 and 2014. This is very much a top trend for 16-17 that we expect to see grow exponentially. Chef Jason Atherton is a really good example of this with his innovative vegan menu at Pollen Street Social. And at the other end of the dining spectrum, Costa Coffee in the UK was the first coffee chain to offer a vegan cake in January this year. And then we think about the other healthy lifestyle choices. So consumers are increasingly experimenting with a plethora of different healthy lifestyles, whether that be gluten-free, low sugar, paleo, vegan, low carb or vegetarian. There really is something for everybody. But consumers want to be able to stick to these healthy lifestyles when they're eating out of home. But crucially, without organoleptic compromise. If you were to buy into one of these diets 5 years ago, the likelihood is that there would have been some kind of compromise on the organoleptic delivery of your food. Since 2012, and this is staggering, we've seen a 380% increase of mentions of gluten-free on menus. But this growth in gluten-free isn't fueled by gluten intolerance or those that are allergic. It's driven by gluten-free lifestyle avoiders who have DIY doctored their own gluten-free lifestyle choice. The next megatrend to introduce you to is one that we've called the green issue. This is all about taking food and drink back to basics and focusing on natural, unprocessed and often raw ingredients with a focus on health, transparency and waste. And a key sub-trend in this space, one that we've seen emerge from virtually nothing in a couple of years, is one that we've called plant-based bias. So we really have reached a tipping point for vegetables. Vegetables are in many cases pushing animal protein to the side of plate and in some cases entirely off it. We're seeing animal protein distribution stretch globally. We're seeing rising meat prices, a scrabble for us to eat even more antioxidant-rich foods, health and diet concerns, growth of farmers' markets, locavore movement, and an increasing number of flexitarians, and chefs like Bruno Lube and many others, including Alain Ducasse, getting very excited more excited than ever before about the possibilities with vegetables. And we're starting to see the emergence of a vegetable-forward restaurant movement. There's been an increase of 118% of vegetable dishes on menus across the US between 14 and 15. And this trend is being driven not only by the restaurant world, but also bloggers and Instagrammers such as Deliciously Ella who advocate plant-based eating. So let's take a look That's what Bruno Lube has to say.
The idea of the menu is quite different here. It's a bit upside down, really. The veg can come first, and the meat or the protein element come second. It's quite interesting to work that way because you really have to change your mind and really look at the products first. So, for example, I start with a veg in season or something, we forage or a forager bring it to us. And then from there, I look at what I can do with it, something interesting, something tasty, of course. And then, funny enough, the meat element or the fish element come at last as a seasoning or maybe as a little complement or even a goodie on the dish.
And the next sub-trend within this space, waste can also be food. There's a staggering statistic that 1 in 4 calories that are produced ends up in landfill. So we've lived in an era where food was plentiful and waste has been acceptable. But the millennial audience in particular, waste is very much front of mind, and they're making food choices based on these credentials. Chef Dan Barber from Blue Hill in the city and also Stone Barns in upstate New York has developed a program called Wasted, which focuses on finding uses for parts of food and drink that would have otherwise been thrown away and incorporating that into his menus. And the next mega trend to introduce you to is one that we've called Eat Your Area, which again touches on one of the points that Michael raised earlier on. Consumers do want transparency. They do want to know who's been involved in their food stuff. They want and need to trust our food and beverage offers. Since 2013, we've seen a just under 300% increase in the origin naming on menus. So chefs and operators supporting local produce and local producers. And a key sub-trend in this space, obviously, is maximising provenance stories. And consumers are better able to understand much more about the food journey. Remember, the people that are walking into your outlets are better educated than they've ever been before. So they're able to appreciate the story behind the plate. So not just satisfied with knowing the region a food is from, but also chefs as telling us about specific farms and farmers, breeds and varieties. And then we have mass customization. This mega trend is all about exactly that, providing greater possibilities to have your meal your way. Whether that be co-creating a menu with a chef, and we've seen a number of examples of that, or being able to choose your own additions and condiments along with your own and apply your own personalized flair to your food in your way. And obviously a key sub-trend within this mega trend is do it your way. And this is all about your own food creation. So McDonald's have their create your taste, sort of completely customizable burger operation via a touch screen where you get to choose the different options around the protein, the sauces and the bun. Or the example on the bottom right there is Blaze pizza concept from the US. And we're seeing more and more casual and fast casual concepts using this, what I would call either the Subway or the burrito model, where you track your food down the line, making choices as you go and personalizing on the way. 2 minutes later, in this case, you've got your very own pizza your way. And for those of you that haven't seen the McDonald's Create Your Taste,
Decisions.
The ad.
So many gourmet ingredients for Lucy to choose from. New succulent chicken breast fillet, fresh off the grill. A choice of 3 buns, including ciabatta, 6 cheeses like mozzarella, and 11 plush sauces. Burgers like these are worth the wait and worthy of a waiter. Create your taste, now with grilled chicken. How very un-McDonald's.
Anybody tried it? Just feel quite alien having your McDonald's brought to you where you're sitting, I have to say. The next sub-trend within this space that I'd just like to touch on is one that we've called condiments galore. And it really does feel like we've gone a little bit condiment crazy, whether that be hot honey, mustard, ketchup, mayo, chutney, sriracha, gochujang, kimchi, pomegranate molasses. The list goes on and on. There are so many options quickly gaining momentum, either to customize or to upgrade with a more premium topping. So whether that be signature in-house condiments, to outlets even having condiment sommeliers to help you be able to select the perfect condiment for your particular product. It really feels like we've gone condiment mad. Anybody tried Mike's Hot Honey from the US? That's definitely something to have a look at. And the last mega trend to introduce you to is one that we've called enabled by technology. So This trend obviously focuses on how advancing technological achievements can affect and influence the world of dining. They say that technology will destroy and rebuild every major sector, and we believe that tech-driven delivery is the 1617 big food disruptor of food service and food retail. Aimed at the ultimate consumer convenience, this is about hot food brought quickly to homes, offices, and even hotel bedrooms. So the people that are muscling in on this high-speed delivery space, people like Munchery, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Amazon Fresh, Postmates, Grubhub, and Yelp. No one actually makes the food. They're all middlemen connecting producers, restaurants, and customers, collecting fees and personal information as they go. But a watch out from my side. Be careful who owns the relationship with the customer. I spoke to an unnamed restaurateur only 3 weeks ago who told me that 40% of his revenue is now coming from Deliveroo, and that immediately after the terrorist attacks in Paris, that rose to 70%, which I thought was quite interesting, the way that consumers were or diners were using Deliveroo in that instance. And my parting message for you, really, robotic restaurateuring, very much thinking about the future. I'm sure you'll think that this is sci-fi, but my question to you is, how long before our kitchens look something like this? And the best bit, he also does the washing up as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful and thought-provoking summary of what's going on, the food and beverage trends in our industry. As I mentioned, this keynote is an excerpt from a much larger report that we've produced for this event. So if you'd like to get hold of that, please do go to the link, thefoodpeople.co.uk/GRIF-2016, and we'll get the report emailed straight across to you. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Charles. Really appreciate that. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions at the moment. We're running a little bit behind. But sorry, just to clarify, that actually exists, that robot?
It's
wow.
real.
Okay.
It is real.
It's on my Christmas list. Thank you so much. Now, Charles will be around for questions in the coffee break, as well as all of today. And we will also be downloading you the link so that you have access to not only this presentation, but all the presentations that you see today.